What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another page of the playbook. This is Nate coming at you guys. 32 NFL off seasons in 32 days. Yesterday we talked about America's team, the Dallas Cowboys. Today we are talking about nobody's team, the Denver Broncos. Before we get into today's video, guys, I just want to give a special shout out to today's sponsors, starting with Goldfine and Bowles, lawyers for the injured. Personal injury, workers' compensation, those are their two things, but any sort of legal advice, they're the people to call. Give them a phone call, 309-673-5144. Tell them we sent you, okay? And I'd also like to shout out SeatGeek for sponsoring today's video as well. Use promo code PlaybookSports on their website to get $20 off your first purchase of $30 or more. Let's get back to the video. Man, last year, let's talk about it, Broncos fans. What a rough season. You had 70 points hung on you in the third game of the year by yours truly. After, a week after giving up, 30-something to Sam Howell and the Commanders. Rough start. You benched your quarterback because he wouldn't sign away guarantees in his contract, protecting him from injury. Kind of looked shitty on your part. And then you benched him for it, and then ultimately cut him, resulting in the largest dead cap hit in NFL history. $85 million. The Broncos this year, and I'm going to mention this a lot, so get used to this. They're paying Russell Wilson $53 million to be a Pittsburgh Steeler. That's insane. That is insane. They are spending 20.75%, over a fifth of available cap space in the NFL this year on a player that will not play a single down for them. That's unbelievable. How do you turn this around? They haven't made any coaching changes. Sean Payton's kept the same group in the building. He's still got Vance Joseph at DC. He's still calling the plays on offense and has an offensive coordinator, Joe Lombardi, I believe, is their offensive coordinator. Free agency losses. Let's just dive right into player acquisition and player loss here. Let's do losses first. Let's start quarterback, Russell Wilson. Like I said before, he was cut for whatever reason. Whether you believe the reports that it was because he wouldn't waive his injury guarantees, whether he just didn't mesh with Sean Payton, he wasn't Sean Payton's guy, who knows what the problem is, or was. But at the end of the day, the Broncos wanted him out of the building so badly that they were willing to eat the largest dead cap hit in NFL history. They are paying him a ton of money not to play for them. And then they dealt wide receiver Jerry Jeudy to the Cleveland Browns for only a 5th and a 6th round pick. That is a bad return for a former first-round pick who is only 25 years old. Only 25 years old, and you're taking away a weapon from your rookie quarterback. I hated that. I hate that. I don't understand that at all. Then they released longtime stud safety Justin Simmons. Kind of a surprising move, but when you're paying 20% of your cap to the Pittsburgh Steelers, you have to make tough moves like this. And then they also were unable to re-sign starting center Lloyd Cushenberry, coming off of his best year as a starting center by a mile. Could not re-sign him. He was the third-ranked pass-blocking center in the NFL last year per PFF. And now he's a Titan because you just could not afford to pay him. So a lot of talent to have to replace. What'd they do in free agency? Not much. Not a ton. The only notable one that I wanted to mention here was safety Brandon Jones, who never really caught on in Miami. He was more of a blitzing, box-heavy safety, played a lot of his time in the box, but struggled with injuries, struggled with coverages. He's a very good blitzer. Very good blitzer. Good at disguising it, good at getting home. A ton of tape on that, but not great as a safety. Not a fantastic safety. He definitely will not replace Justin Simmons. So that's pretty clearly, overall, this free agency period, a net negative in talent for the Denver Broncos. 4 starters gone. Maybe they brought 1 starter in to replace one. Maybe. Let's talk about their draft, see how they did in the draft. First round, Broncos did what they had to do. It's well documented. I don't like Bo Nix. But they needed a quarterback. They could not roll into the season with Jarrett Stidham. Just absolutely couldn't. So they took one. They took the 6th quarterback out of the first 12 picks, which is insane, and Bo Nix out of Oregon. I just don't see it with him. I really don't see it with him. Honestly, maybe the Raiders would have taken him at 13 is the only argument I'll entertain here. But if I'm the Broncos, I am sick that I wasn't able to trade down and get a 2nd-round pick or get a few more picks throughout the draft, because Bo Nix should be, based on his talent, should be available towards the end of the first round. He wasn't even one of my top 32 players. He would have definitely been available later in my draft. Now, Las Vegas, would the Raiders have taken him? Maybe. I'll entertain that, and that's it. They went with need. They ignored best player available, and they said, we need this position. We don't have a 2nd-round pick. It's now or never. And they did it. And they pulled the trigger on him. I get it. He's a low ceiling pick, guys. He's not a great athlete. He doesn't have a great arm. He looked good at Oregon. He looked terrible in Auburn. He's a one-read quarterback. He is going to struggle. He's going to be a one-read and run kind of QB, and I am not thrilled about that for Denver. They should have done a little self-scouting here and been like, listen, is Bo Nix going to take us to the promised land? Is he worth the 12? Why take him at pick 12 if he's not potentially going to take you to where you want to go, which should be a Super Bowl for all NFL teams, right? That should be the end goal. Bo Nix is going to constantly be fighting for third or fourth best in his own division. He's never going to be Patrick Mahomes. He's never going to be as good as Justin Herbert. He may be better eventually than whoever the Raiders have at QB. Right now, he's the fourth best. Gardner Minshew's better than him. Pretty plain and simple to me. That's not great out of pick number 12 when every defensive player was available to you. I don't like it. I don't like it. Could have built the roster a little bit better here. However, their next few picks made up for this because I love what they did with the rest of their draft. Getting Jonah Ellis in the third round is an absolute steal. I had him ranked as my fifth best edge in this entire class. That is awesome. That is a fantastic pick for them. Love him there. And then I also love the Troy Franklin pick. I'm a big fan of that one. Okay, you took Bo Nix, but then they got him his favorite receiver at Oregon, who was a stud for them at Oregon, and him being available in the fourth round is nonsense. Absolute nonsense. That's a second round receiver. He was better than several receivers taken in the second round. Better than several of them. I have no idea what he was doing available. That is also an absolute steal. They added a receiver after they lost one. I appreciate that pick. I'm a big fan of the Troy Franklin selection. Limited picks, right? It's hard to get a great grade in my grading system with limited picks. I like teams that hit with multiple picks. Obviously, that's the dream. But they got themselves a ton of impact players. Obviously, Nix will start. Troy Franklin is going to see a ton of time out there at receiver. And then I really think Jonah Ellis should be one of their starting rushers. So I like at least 3 starting guys in this class already, which is fantastic value. But at the same time, I don't love Bo Nix because he's a borderline top 50 prospect in this class, and you took him at pick 12. I don't like that at all. That being said, the rest of their draft really helps boost them up. I'm giving them a B+ for their draft. Even though it kind of goes against my initial feelings, when I see Bo Nix, I'm like, F. Cancel the whole draft, throw it away, it's garbage. They actually nailed on a lot of picks later on in the draft, so I like what they did here. So I'm going to give them a B+, Broncos. I'm going to give you guys a little bit of love here and a B+. Let's talk rest of the offseason here. I'm really confused by the Broncos. Are they all in? Are you guys all in to win this year? Because I don't think you are, right? Broncos aren't all in to win. What are they going to win? They're very clearly the third or fourth best team in their own division, I think, unless the Chargers stink again, which is possible. So, they definitely got worse talent-wise, and they're going to be just stuck with that Wilson dead cap hit for a little bit. I think it counts as $53 million this year and another $35 million next year. So that's a chunk of your cap on a player that you will not get anything out of, obviously. And then I hated the Jerry Jeudy trade. A 5th and a 6th round pick for Jerry Jeudy? Come on, man. That's terrible value. That is terrible value. What you should have done is just let him play on this last year. If you don't want to pay him and don't want to pick up his 5th year option, let him play. And then if he balls out with Bo Nix, bring him back. And if he sucks with Bo Nix and he doesn't get to him in his progressions, then you let him walk. And, oh darn it, we didn't get that 5th and 6th round pick. Shoot. I had to let him play. His production on the field would be more valuable to you than whatever 5th and 6th rounders you get. I'm willing to bet on that. So, I feel like in general, the roster took a step back in talent, which they really couldn't afford to do considering they were picking 12th. So they were the 12th worst team in the NFL this past season. And in the AFC West, you're trying to chase down the Chiefs, and I just don't see any way that they took a step towards that goal. They're kind of in a middle ground, right? They don't have any cap space, so they can't really rebuild. But they also have a bunch of young players that they're hoping pan out. I just don't know, man. I don't know what's going on with the Broncos. I'm confused. But I'm going to give them a C for their overall offseason. Not my best grade, not my worst grade, though. So I'm interested to see how they look this year with Bo Nix at quarterback. Maybe he shocks me and is awesome. Unlikely. So that's all I've got for you guys today on the Broncos offseason. I'll see you guys tomorrow in the Detroit Lions offseason video.